Hey everybody, this is Matthew, and joining me right now are the showrunners of Star Trek Prodigy, Dan and Kevin Hageman. Gentlemen, welcome to Trek Untold.
Thank you. It's
Woo.
great to meet you, Matt.
Yes,
Thank,
wonderful.
Great to meet you guys. I've loved your work beyond Star Trek Prodigy as well, so this is a real treat today. But we got to dig into Prodigy, premiering July 1st on Netflix, as seen in the back of Dan's background.
Mhm.
So you guys have had quite a roller coaster between the end of season one to where we are now at the premiere of season two on July 1st. So can we get everybody caught up for a bit here? Because I want to talk to you guys about the experience of what happened with Prodigy first over the past year, from losing the spot on Paramount, landing on Netflix, getting the Netflix deal, then having France leak all the episodes, and now here we are with the
Yes.
first ever simultaneous drop of Star Trek episodes in one day. It's a lot going on here. It's been quite
I
a ride, hasn't it?
I have to honestly tip my hat to everyone in France who's seen this because I have not seen any spoilers released. I'm really
There's a
impressed.
lot, yeah. I think the one other big hiccup that you forgot to mention was having to do a show with COVID. Our whole season two writers' room was all done on Zoom,
Mhm.
and that has its own trials to
Mhm.
to figure out.
Yeah, do tell, because I've talked to a lot of folks who have filmed on Star Trek shows, the live action shows, and they talk to me about that all the time. I never really think about it for writing, because to me, writing just seems more solitary as much as it is collaborative. But still, I mean, you guys are all separated while this is happening. So, has there been anything that's gone smoothly for Prodigy?
I think well, smoothly in the sense that I think Nickelodeon and Paramount during the time of production and Kurtzman, like everyone's really embraced our show and our vision of it and have supported us. And so it's been a delight making it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I forgot there was one more hiccup too. It's like even before COVID, Kevin, there was like the Nickelodeon, CBS, Paramount of it all. And
Mhm.
so you're right in the sense of it was, but I think the show would have not have been made had it not have wonderful people supporting the show inside the studios, the creative talent. It was just one of those things where it always felt like it was a difficult show to make at a different time, but it was totally worth it.
And through it all, like I know a lot of people haven't seen season two yet, but when we're making it and we're seeing this stuff, we're like, no matter what was coming, we're like, this show's too good for this BS. Like we're gonna find a way through this. Like people, it can't get buried. It's too good.
I absolutely agree. I might be a little bit biased, but I totally agree with that sentiment. And I'd love to get a little bit more info too on how the heck Prodigy did get brought back to life. Because, all us fans, we found out that the show wasn't going to be renewed. It just kind of disappeared into the ether. And then suddenly, miraculously, Netflix comes in, swoops it up, and makes the big rescue. I'd like to hear a little more from you guys too about what that has been like for you too. Again, I'm going to use the word roller coaster. It sounds a little bit cliche, but for us fans, it's been a roller coaster. I can't imagine what it's like for you two.
I
Of
mean, we
course.
never had any doubt. I mean, because when we got the bad news, there was a silver lining to it. We were told that Paramount was taking it off of their streamer, but Kurtzman and some executives at CBS were like, "This show is too good. We're going to find a home. We feel very confident. This is like of the titles that get pulled off, this is one that will find a home." So a lot of the time was just spent going, "Oh my gosh, I wonder where we're going to go." Uh, and then I forgot to mention there was also a writer's strike in there. So there was a writer's strike and we were waiting. And then when we found out it was Netflix, this is
Hold on, and there's all the fan
the
support.
fan support. Yeah, with the fan support and them flying banners over studios, it just felt like it felt like the whole community of Prodigy was rewarded. All the hard work, I think Paramount really did support the show and they really were behind it. But I think Netflix just had a bigger demographic in terms of animation.
My worst fear though was like I don't know what, some tiny minuscule streamer or someone buys, a Prodigy instead of like I'm like when we learned that it was Netflix, I'm like, yes, like it's gonna get out there to people.
Well, let's talk about the new season right now. And I've only seen the first two episodes. When this airs, this will be the day that everything is dropping. So I'm not entirely caught up to the entire end of the season just yet. But as far as that and the trailer here, let's talk about that here. This season is going to be very timey-wimey, and that's a term that Dahl says, as well as some other well-known sci-fi guy out there. But what is the challenges of crafting a show around the effects of time travel and temporal mechanics 101?
Well, screenwriting 101 tells you do not write a time travel story. They are we've done it before and it's the worst headache in the world, but we wrote ourselves into a corner at the end of season one with Gwen being on present day Solum, Chakotay being in future Solum, we're like, oh boy, we're going to have a time travel season.
Well, I also think, I mean, you look at different properties. Like if Marvel does a time travel thing like Endgame, people are like, oh, it's a lot of fun. If Star Trek does a time travel thing, they're going to be on you. So you got to make sure that your T's are crossed and your I's are dotted. So we felt that pressure, and there's a lot of discussion. There's a lot of talk about how we're going to handle this. We had our consultant, Dr. Erin McDonald, who's an astrophysicist. She was all over it, on top of it. And it really kind of warmed our hearts when we go, can this work? And she's like, yes. And that's the start of season 2.
Now, besides a lot of the returning regulars, we also have a new addition to the crew here. We've got Michaela Dietz as Majel, which, oh my God, I was not expecting to see the voice of Amethyst pop up in Star Trek. And she seems like a bit of an unusual casting choice when I think about Vulcans here. So what can you tell me about working with Michaela? Because I assume she's just amazing and awesome, but about working with her and her particular take on Vulcans.
Well, first of all, she does such an amazing job. I know, like, her voice is amazing, and she's done a lot of goofy, fun, cartoony kind of characters and stuff. This is totally a whole new world for her, and bringing her in, like, and how the difficulty of, I think, an ordinary actor in a live action Star Trek show to play a Vulcan and to emote so subtly.
You can't be emotionless. You have to be filled with emotion, but you have to have that bottled up. So
but in animation,
great because she has that,
Yeah, in animation now, it's so much is just relying on her voice. Like we can animate, but in a TV show pipeline, you can only do so much with the animation of a face, and so much relied on her performance. And we're so happy with what she did. Not only with her character, but doing a teenage Vulcan, which we haven't really seen.
Yeah, talk about trying to keep your emotions down as a teenage Vulcan. Wow, that's like a whole series in itself.
Yeah, right? Yeah, it's different than Spock. Yeah.
I do want to admit, too, by the way, it's so awesome that Jason Alexander is back in the Star Trek fold. It's great just hearing his voice again. But I do want to talk about Kate Mulgrew a bit because she's been really steering the ship, I feel like, proverbially speaking, when it comes to like promoting the series on social media and like, helping to rally the fans. What's it been like to work with Kate Mulgrew and bring in Admiral Janeway back into Star Trek?
I think when she jumped in head first. And, she saw that what we were trying to do, that we weren't trying to talk down to kids. And she loved that. And I think that she's always given that message of, kids aren't the only ones who have stuff to learn. A lot of it is the adults. Adults feel like they don't need to learn anything. And there's so much that they can learn from children. And that's actually a really big message and theme throughout the season, where it feels like this is kids in the adult world and there's so much for them to learn. But now it goes vice versa.
If the opportunity ever arose for, let's say, a live action Janeway series for the more mature Star Trek audience, is that something you guys would want to do with her?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, she's amazing. Yes, of course.
Anything Kate's in, we're right there.
Yeah.
And that was the most obvious question to answer I could have asked, right? But, aside from that, too, we got the EMH is back. Chakotay is back as well. I'm not sure about any other familiar faces we're going to see yet, but I'd like to know, how do you guys balance fan service versus driving the story?
You know what? I think we took a lesson, and this is a little bit of a tangent, but when we worked on Ninjago and they wanted to put a toy, they go, we want to sell this helicopter. We made sure that it was baked in. We didn't just throw it in there. We were very careful and made sure that it had to do with story. And I think that's something we do with fan service as well. It's like we make sure that it's baked into the story. So it doesn't feel like something that we're just trying to throw out there to wiggle at the audience and say, look what we're doing. We want to make sure that it all folds in together.
I know that Prodigy is meant to kind of be the gateway for children to get into Star Trek, but it's also very different from like the pew pew world of Star Wars, let's say. So you guys are really right now at Prodigy. It feels like treading that thin line between entry point, but also placating the older viewers with things like fan service with a deeper lore. So kind of similar note here. How do you balance the complex universe of Star Trek while making something like this accessible to younger eyes?
We always write to ourselves. Like when we write something, it has to be something that I'd want to watch. So it has to make me laugh. It has to spark my imagination. But at the same time, we're always making sure that it's kid friendly. So I don't necessarily see Star Trek Prodigy just being a kids show. I mean, we always intended it to be for everyone. And so, if anything, it's more of an adult animated show that's kid friendly, that kids can watch and be a part of. And I think in season 2, there is a lot of timey-wimey stuff, things that might go over some kids' heads. But I think it's going to inspire them and make them really think. And there is enough in there to, never to go too dark or too mature that we would ever.
I think you would think that most Star Trek would be family friendly, but then you come across episodes like Naked Now, and some of it's very sexualized. And I'm like, you just don't need to have those episodes, for an audience. And then the rest of Star Trek is fantastic.
A lot of folks who I've talked to who have done kids shows, like they say the biggest thing is really that you're not talking down to the audience. You have to really talk them up. And in the case of what you guys are doing with Prodigy, you are really throwing some kind of complex ideas at them. And that's got to be difficult too, to even just for you as showrunners and writers to like wrap your head around of how do I make this be understandable to someone who doesn't know temporal mechanics and physics and space travel and that kind of thing.
Luckily, I don't understand temporal mechanics. So we were writing for ourselves to understand it.
Fair enough,
yeah. The things we kept getting the notes of like, will a 6-year-old understand these concepts? And we're like, you know what? I'd rather spark something, have curiosity, and then they'll dig a little deeper, and then they'll get interested in it. That's how stuff sparks in brains. So I hope there's a bunch of kids out there who are inspired to dig deeper and figure out what these things mean.
Yeah, I feel like that's the Star Trek motto right there, right?
Yeah.
So what will it take to get the 3rd season of Prodigy out there? And do you guys have plans for another season that I know it's, we're still talking season 2 right now, it just premiered, but do you guys have plans in mind that maybe you could coyly tease about a season 3?
I think anyone who finishes season 2 will see that there's a place to go. And I think Kevin and I would always be up for writing those episodes. But we're not going to lie. It's going to take a lot of effort. It's going to take a lot of viewership. And it's not, what used to get a show greenlit for another season 10 years ago was very different. Now it's like there's so much content out there. The shows that go beyond 2 seasons are oftentimes mega hits, like Wednesday or these big shows where they know the audience is going to be there. So, even if we don't get a season 3 right off the bat, I'm not worried because I feel like it's the same thing right now. We will be seen, and I feel like there will be more adventures down the road because I feel like, again, these characters are too rich. This world is too great. Whether it turns into something live action down the road, whether it's a movie, I don't know. I think there's a lot of possibilities for this crew.
Yeah, and I know our crew and cast, they love the show. And when that call happens, I know a lot of people are going to be coming back.
Well, I got a tough one here to wrap things up for you guys. What's something that you can say about the finale that won't spoil it for those who haven't seen it, but for the people who have watched the season all the way to the end, that they're going to understand?
I think if you know what year this show takes place, then you will know where we're inevitably going to get to.
Yeah.
That's it, Kevin. Those people who know, they'll get it right off the bat.
I was going to say that for me, whenever I watch our finale, I always get teary-eyed, and so I hope others do too.
Very cryptic, okay. Now I'm extra intrigued. Awesome. I know I'm binging after this interview. So yeah, everybody out there, check out all seasons of Star Trek Prodigy currently streaming on Netflix. Season 2 dropping on July 1st. Thank you again, Kevin and Dan. This has been awesome, and I wish you guys much success with the series and everything else you do beyond Star Trek as well, because you guys are amazing.
Anytime.
Thank you, Matt.
Thanks so much.
Wonderful.
That's it for this week's episode of Trek Untold. Thank you for checking it out. Don't forget to follow us on social media, whether it's on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok at Trek Untold, and subscribe wherever you are listening to or watching on. And that includes the audio versions on whatever platforms that might be, and our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@TrekUntold. If you'd like to support this show financially, please consider visiting patreon.com/TrekUntold to become a member of this show. And along with getting access to all sorts of wonderful perks, you'll also know that you're helping out this show continue to thrive, survive, and make new content all the time. I'm Matthew Kaplowitz. This has been Trek Untold. Thanks for watching. And until next time, always remember, fortune favors the bold.
Trek Untold, the Star Trek podcast that goes beyond the stars, is powered by the Rageworks Podcast Network and affiliated with Nerd News Today.